Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Truth Talks. In today's episode, we have our client Paul, who's been with us for almost 2 years at this point. Now, Paul came to us with a very good foundation of training experience and muscle mass, but we just took things to a whole nother level. So he's going to walk you through some of the shifts in belief systems around training, as well as nutrition and some of the progress that we've made so far, and also what is a plan going forward for the future. So it's been an absolute pleasure to be in Paul's corner and watching him evolve over the past almost 2 years. And sit back, relax, and watch if you're on YouTube, or listen if you're on another streaming platform. And let's dive in. All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Truth Talks. We are here with Paul. Paul, how are you today?
I'm good, man. Thank you for having me. Long overdue.
Definitely long overdue. Paul and I have been working together for a very long time. I kind of refer to him as like Captain America because he kind of looks like a superhero. And I was saying he's kind of, or you know what, maybe more of a Clark Kent kind of look today. But yeah, we've come quite a long way with the physique. And I want to dive into all that stuff too. But I want to just start by, asking a little bit about you, where you're from, how old are you? Just give us a little bit of context.
Sure. Yeah, I'm 26 now. We started working together almost 2 years ago now. So we started when I was like 24. I'm from Calgary. I've always been a pretty active guy. I like playing all my sports and stuff like that. But obviously we started working together because after COVID and like being sedentary and stuff for so long, you kind of like lose your habits and the things that you're like usually good at. So we started working together, kicking those back into gear, and worked well. So that's
Right
that.
on, man. Right on. And yeah, you grew up pretty active and everything. So maybe walk us through kind of your training experience, like maybe earlier in life and kind of leading up to that time where we connected.
Yeah, so I always was in the gym, like to a degree. Well, actually like pretty often, like probably 5 to 7 days in a week, which was like borderline too much, which I have come to learn now. But it was more like a mental health thing than anything. Like I did as much sports as I could just because like that was like my outlet and really fun for me. And then like a little bit too much of the gym and everything like that. The fact I could do 7 days in the gym is probably testament to the fact that I never was training hard enough, which I did come to learn. But yeah, I always enjoyed being active. And then obviously when COVID hit, everything was shut down. Still tried to stay active as much as I could. Ran and stuff like that. But I mean, there's only so much you can do when it's minus 30. So, and you live in an apartment. Like, I mean, there's limitations on that. So obviously things kind of changed and I continued eating the same way, but not, having the same activities. So yeah. And then we ended up starting working together and that was awesome.
Right on, man. Yeah, because even when you came, you obviously had like a good foundation of muscle. Like you're somebody who has a lot of genetic potential, I think, for muscle mass. But obviously, maybe the body composition wasn't as refined as it could be. And I guess I guess we could talk about that a little bit because you were training almost every day, and I hear that a lot about people. Even when I recommend like 4 or 5 day splits when they're coming from 6 or 7 day splits. And there's always this pre-condoned notion of, oh, but aren't I going to lose gains if I train less frequency? So with less frequency. So it was kind of the mindset. Man, I can't speak today. I just hit legs if you can't tell. Can't speak. What was the kind of mindset shift that you went like maybe around training volume itself and like maybe balancing that with intensity and recovery? Like walk us through that.
It was more like the realization of like, if I'm able to train 7 days, I'm not training hard enough. And like, that was kind of it. So it became like a trade-off of like, I shouldn't be able to hit the same thing back to back to back to back to back because then I'm not doing it properly the first time. So that was kind of like the big mindset shift that we kind of had there. And then like, obviously for like my mental health, like it's very important for me to have a break of some sort of activity during the day. So like, even if I'm not training like a specific workout, I'm doing something else. Like I've been playing a lot of tennis lately. So, like I'll kind of plan my week. So it's like workout, tennis, workout, tennis or something like that to keep me active. But then also like making sure the specific muscle groups are getting enough rest to like hit them effectively.
Gotcha. Yeah, totally makes sense. Was there anything that kind of was like unique to you, or anything in terms of like the way I program, or like anything that was like new, or things that you wouldn't have like programmed yourself, or like different ways of doing things?
Yeah, tons of stuff. And I actually was like thinking about this earlier today because I figured you'd ask about this. So some of the exercises, and like let me finish this before you jump on my neck here. I would say some of the exercises that are programmed sometimes appear to be like I'll say quote unquote gimmicky, you know? Like there's a few that come to mind where I'm like looking at this and I'm like, oh no, this is like a TikTok exercise and like I'm gonna look like such a clown for doing this. But then you sit down and do it and you're like, oh my God. Like the specific one, and I'll tell you this story that comes to mind is that the rear delt one where you're like leaning up against the bench and pulling across your body. I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, I don't want to do this because this is going to make me look like a bozo. So anyways, I did it. And like 3 or 4 people, including some of the trainers at the gym I work out at, asked me about it and now have like implemented it in their regimen because they're like, that is actually the supreme way to hit rear delts. Like I was like telling them about it. I'm like, honestly, I thought this was dumb as heck. And I was like, why am I being programmed this? And then I tried it. It's the supreme rear delt exercise. Nothing comes close. And now I've converted like 3 or 4 other trainers over to it. And they swear by the same thing. So yeah, there were like a few exercises I was like, I'm not doing this. This is ridiculous. Like, I've been working out for a long time. I know what I'm doing. But I'm like, okay, like, I'll give it a shot. And they end up being amazing and like so much better than I thought they would be.
That is too funny, man. And you know, to be honest, I think that just shows keeping an open mind, because even myself, like there was a lot of things that my coach had programmed for me during my prep, for example, where I was like, interesting, right? But you say, okay, trust the process, keep an open mind. And I'm like, oh, okay, this makes sense once you get in it. So I think it's important, especially when we've trained for such a long period of time. It's easy to just fall in the same routines, doing the same things, the same training methods. And I think it's important to kind of sometimes just drop that and be open to something. So I like that you kind of experienced that, even though I know exactly what you mean, but I'm glad it's kind of working out from that sense. And then also, like, walk us through kind of the training intensity thing. So have you noticed that you've been able to kind of push to new levels with the intensity?
Yeah, I think it's like more than anything like a mindset thing. Like I try my hardest to be like, whether it's like proving it to yourself or proving it to like whoever that doesn't actually care about you, you are going to be the guy that squeezes out the last rep. And you're going to be the guy that goes and steps in the gym and is like killing yourself for each rep. So that's like the mindset that I've been like trying to adopt, where it's like, I'm the guy, no matter how much I'm lifting or how ridiculous it looks, I'm training hard. Because there's like some too, where it's like, if you do a drop set and you're pyramiding all the way down, because sometimes I like ad lib that, and you're doing like 7.5 pounds on like the tricep extension, you look ridiculous that you're just like having such a hard time with that. But like, you got to do it. So it's about, I guess, the mindset of like, I'm the guy that trains hard.
And when you have good technique like you do, you can train hard and push to those, like push really hard to failure and still not get sloppy. And I think that in itself is a skill too, because a lot of people say, oh yeah, I train super hard, but then you look at their last few reps and they lose all the intention. The form is different. The like biomechanics and movement are completely changed. So it's like, that's like a skill that I feel you're pretty good at, is like pushing hard, yes, but like not sacrificing, the quality of the rep too.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, in the past personally, like there's been times where I've literally hurt myself by like saying I train hard, and then you push to failure on a weight that's like too heavy for you, like most notably like squats or deadlifts, and then you end up hurting yourself pretty badly, taking yourself out for a while, and that's like bad. Like at the end of the day, like you need to maintain your like form and your shape and everything like that, or you risk like hurting your tendons or something else like that. And then it's like, what was it all for anyway?
True, because I think before we started working together, you had a deadlift injury almost, right? Was it, if I remember correctly?
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, like a very
but it
long
still persists to this day. So it's like I kind of have to be pretty careful with how quickly I ascend with working with like squats or deadlifts or something like that. Like it's not like I can come off of a break and like maintain the weight that I was doing before, because it's like, no, like, I don't know, it just doesn't really work for me. But if I work up to it slowly, then it's like, okay, it's approachable in that sense.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. And I'll switch kind of gears to nutrition. Maybe what were kind of some learnings or some maybe mindset switches when it came to diet in general?
I think the most important thing is to just do like your best. Like there's some days, and like for me, I will like preface it with like, I'm not like training for a competition or anything like that. So if I miss some days, it's okay. And like, you can forgive yourself for that. But ultimately what you need to do, in my opinion, is like, just go in with the mindset of like, I'm trying my best to feel good, but also stick with the plan. One of the big things that I find more difficult with the macro tracking and stuff like that is it's, pretty intense, I would say. Like it's like laborious in a sense to like track all of your food. So there's a few different approaches that I think are helpful in minimizing kind of the friction in tracking your macros. Firstly, like the app, Chronometer or whatever you choose to use, allows you to make those meals, which helps. Like I'm a very repetitive eater. I like go through a phase of like 3 months to a year of like, I'm going to eat exactly this every day. So that helps, that I don't mind doing that. And then I can like pre-plan meals. But then also like, I would say there's like levels to how intense you want to track. And we've worked on this too, where it's like, you can track every single thing. You can track your proteins, carbs, and fats, your calories, everything like that. Or like, if that's too much, like track your protein and your calories, because if you're eating your protein target and your calorie target, the other two will probably fall in line as long as you're eating quality foods. And then even more so, like, I don't know, if I were to dial it back even more, like just track your protein, because protein's incredibly satiating. So if you're hitting your protein targets, you're probably doing a good job. I mean, as long as it's not like you're eating 200 grams of protein from bacon, like chicken thighs or something like that, So I don't know, making it work for you by like making it as frictionless as possible. And then also like some tracking is better than no tracking. So like just showing up to do a little bit or as much as you can every day, but also realizing like what your goals are, and like missing some days is okay. Like you can forgive yourself for that.
I think that's a good point. I really like how you brought up the different levels of, we'll call it, accuracy. And I think we've almost had like these different seasons with you where we've gone through various levels of tracking, but I think those levels of tracking should be aligned with the current goal. Like, you know what I mean? Like when you're on vacation, we get like the quote unquote loosest that we do out of the year, but there's still somewhat of a consciousness around eating, and we still have some sort of a strategy. And then maybe, if we're at the very end of the fat loss phase, then that's like when we're the most accurate and most consistent and most like dialed in and measured, right? So you need to have, for different phases and different seasons of life and different goals, you need to be able to have that skill of like going through those different layers. Because as you said, in order to make it sustainable, like you're not going to always be like a scientific experiment for your whole life with your tracking.
Yeah. But no, I mean, the biggest thing of all, I would say, is like 6 months to 9 months or to even a year of just like dialed in tracking will completely alter your life. Like for real. Like once you like eat, like you track macros for like 6 to 9 months, you're like building that habit, and you will just like never eat the same again. Because like for me, before we even started working together, I thought I was like eating properly and everything like that. And like, no matter how much protein I thought I was actually eating, it wasn't enough. Like I would have one protein shake, a little bit of protein here and there, chicken breast, whatever. So probably like 120 grams of protein. But once you actually track that for like 6 months, you're like, oh, like this is what I got to do to like maintain myself every day. And then after that, you can be a little looser.
I love that, because here's the thing. Everybody wants to get to that point where they can be very flexible, eyeball things, but they haven't earned that privilege because they haven't done that meticulous tracking. Like the fact that you did all that tracking very meticulously then sets you up to be able to not track if you don't want to track. But you're also like, some people, if I say, okay, we're going to take a little bit of the the gas, foot off the gas in terms of tracking, then it's like, oh, the handcuffs are off, right? But I feel like you're pretty good at finding that middle ground, even like on your longer trips away, like you still didn't go crazy with things, which I think is not easy. So I will commend you to being able to kind of like find that balance, because I think like sometimes I think if I were to do some of the trips you did, like I don't even know if I would have handled them the same, to be completely honest.
I mean, for me, it's just like we worked so hard to get to where we were that it's like it would be such a shame to revert back to where we were before. You know,
That's
like
fair.
we worked so hard to get here, and like you think about like all the training, all the tracking, all of the steps, everything like that, like culminated into like where you are. It's not so hard to go from there to a maintenance phase, but man, like emotionally, it would take such a toll on me to go back to square one. And it's like, you have to keep in mind, like, I don't know, maybe you can have like a million pizzas on like a trip to wherever, but it's like, at what cost? You're going to feel terrible about yourself later.
That's fair. And also like maintaining is, you have a lot more flexibility than if you're like, you know, trying to lose weight, for example, right? So you do have that more of a buffer.
For sure.
So it's kind of like we try to align your different phases with the trips or with the evenings out or something like that. So it's not like we're making a big push for fat loss when we are going to Europe, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
oh, for
kind of
sure.
that kind of thing.
For sure. Yeah. And I mean, balancing that is super helpful. Like when there's not much going on in life and we're just like hanging out at home, it's the winter arc time and it's like time to lock in, you know what I mean? And then enjoy the summer, enjoy your time. But also at the same time, like if you're not like training for a competition or anything like that, I mean, if you want an extra beer on Friday or something like that, it's not the end of the world. Like one extra beer is not going to destroy your entire journey. So it's about finding a balance and like keeping your mental health intact the whole time too.
100%. I guess before we talk about more like physique development stuff, I do want to hear kind of like what are some strategies that you've implemented, maybe 4 events or 4 times where, you know, we want to have a couple of drinks or, you know, we're going out to dinner, or for example, when you had a bunch of those events around the engagement stuff, like all that kind of thing, like what were some strategies that you used to kind of find that middle ground of like indulgence and not taking a bunch of steps back? Because some people just throw everything out the window when they have situations like that.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing you have to realize is like, firstly, one day is not going to make a huge difference in your journey. If you have one day where like one event, it's like, oh, like this is like a really important event to me and I want to enjoy it, like do it. You know, it's not going to ruin your entire journey. So allow yourself to do that. It's also a really good mental reset to like continue on your journey. But also like negotiate with yourself and be like, okay, if I'm going to enjoy this event, I'm going to be clean this week. Like I'm going to be real good. I'm going to be real dialed in. I'm going to go on like one extra walk around the block or something like that. So yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing. And just kind of like understanding that one day won't ruin your stuff, but like linking those days together will cause damage. So like be clean, pay it forward, I guess. That's probably not the right terminology for it, but you get the gist. And then forgive yourself for that one day, or don't get in your head about that one day. Enjoy it. It's so important.
Yeah. I like that, man. I like that. It's not like also globalizing, because some people have that one day and then they'll be like, oh, well, everything's over and it's all ruined, so let me just have next 4 days also like that. It's like, hold on a second. It would have 0 effect if you just jump right back on plan, but you
100%.
idolize the day, right? So
100%. Like you have to, I guess, treat it like this isn't a pattern change. This is like a blip in my pattern. And my pattern and my normal is tracking and being diligent with my protein and everything like that. But it's completely fine to have days where you have your drinks or you have a good time or someone's in town and you go out for like a special dinner. Like, enjoy it. It's life after all. Like at the end of the day, like your physique and everything like that is not the end all and be all. Like, I don't know. Yeah, it makes you happier and stuff, but I don't know. Nobody's going to ask you what your macros were on a specific day at the end of your life. So
I come up there to the hospital bed. I'm like, oh, no,
Yeah.
it's horrible. But yeah,
Don't
no,
need a chronometer.
let's log in together. The thing is, I think that like ultimately most people want to get in shape to live a better life. So if you get in shape, but then you're so paranoid about never doing anything so that you don't actually enjoy like your body and take it out and do things and socialize, then like, what are you in shape for? Other than like, you know, look in the mirror and be like, cool, I'm in shape. But it's like, I feel like being in good shape has made life, at least for me, so much more enjoyable. Like when I go out for dinner, even just feeling good in my shirt, like that in itself is so awesome. But if you don't ever allow yourself to go out to dinner, which again, if you're in a competition prep, that's different. But like for the average person getting in good shape, like if you're not even allowing yourself to go out to dinner, you don't learn strategies to do that, then like you're in shape, but you're not enjoying it fully.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying like all this stuff for people in competition prep. That's a different thing. That's like not my path. And I think that's okay. That's okay with me. So, I mean, then it is okay. But yeah, like you said, it's about building like the proper pattern and everything like that. And I do think that I was getting to a point, especially before that trip, where it was like, I was getting so in my head about like all my hard work is going to go to crap, because like when I was in Europe and in Italy, like their natural diet is not rich in protein at all. Like it's very difficult to find your protein sources and stuff over there. So I was getting like very like fixated on like, I gotta hit my protein targets. And it was like next to impossible without like having 3 to 4 protein shakes a day, which is like, it's kind of gross at that point. But then what actually like really changed my whole perspective on it is like, I was away for like 3 weeks and then I came back and I was like, oh no, like I must have done some serious damage. And then you come back, you do 1 or 2 weeks of rebalancing and getting back in your routine, and you're pretty much back on the horse with where you were. And that was like really important for me in my journey to realize like, it's pretty difficult for me to like cause damage and like ruin the progress that I've made unless I'm like really overindulging. So just being okay with like enjoying your life too is important. And like you said, because I was almost there too, like not hyperfixating on like, you know, not being perfect.
Yeah. And I think we called that. We said, hey, listen, we're gonna look a little soft when we come back. You know, the weights might seem a bit heavy, like whatever. But I think we took like sequential progress pics so we could see your physique hardening up kind of week by week, you know, which is kind of cool to see. But we kind of called in if that was, and now that you have this data, it's like next time you'll freak out less and less and less because you know.
Yeah, exactly. Well, then I went away over Christmas break and stuff like that, and it's like, no big deal. I'm just going to enjoy it. And then I'll go back next week and we'll get back on track. Like we'll be like a little bit behind, but whatever.
Yeah. In the grand scheme of things, not a big deal. I think you are one of the masters of balancing in the balancing act. I know people can't probably even see, I mean, some people are listening to this, but we can't see even on the camera, but Paul actually has a pretty elite physique. And I know he's talking about not competing, but if he did want to compete, he would actually do some damage up there. I can tell you that. So he's a humble guy, but his physique is pretty elite. And I'm sure we'll post some pics at some point, but pretty crazy. So walk us through I obviously have my perspective, but walk us through your perspective on how your physique has kind of developed over time.
Well, I don't even know how to answer that. Well, certainly, I mean, we've dropped quite a bit of weight. So, I mean, there's no denying that. Probably close to 25 to 30 pounds at this point. I would say probably properly, because I mean, the strength is still there, if not going up. And that's like mostly just from changing diet, like eating the protein, and that's that. So, I mean, I'm happy with where we are for sure. But yeah, I mean, it's been a great journey, so I'm grateful for sure. And I'm grateful for the guidance. So.
Oh, dude, absolute pleasure, man. I think like definitely a ton of fat loss, but because we had these periods of maintenance, we had these periods of time where we could kind of go and lift and, you know, still build strength in between. And because slow and steady kind of won the race for you, it wasn't like we just like crash dieted things off. So we were able to keep kind of that muscle fullness. We were able to keep the strength and also have these periods of time where we kind of work things up and down. And then during these maintenance phases, or even slight building phases, I feel like we could go really hard even at certain muscle groups and just kind of like bring those up too, which is cool.
Like my favorite is for sure when we kind of just finish like doing a fat loss phase, and then we're doing like a little bit of a maintenance phase, because you feel like filled out, your physique looks even better than when you're in the fat loss phase, and your strength is going up. And then you're just like, yes, like this is awesome. And I like the strength stuff too. Like it's not the most important thing to me, but I do have a little brother that's like doing full on, like I'm eating 4,500 calories a day to bench as much as possible. And it kind of hurts the ego being the big brother. And then he's like, he even said he's going to make me a shirt saying he's going to have one saying I can bench 315. And he's going to get me one that says I can't bench 315.
Oh, what is that?
So I thought that was funny, but hurts the ego a little bit. So I like being able to catch up to him in the strength again.
That's fair. That's fair. But again, like, you pick your battles, and I think I know a lot of really strong guys, and most of them, again, are carrying a little extra body fat on them because that's what helps with the strength. But I always was like, you know what? I don't want to be like self-conscious about like my body forever just because so I can bench more, like, so it all matters of like what your goal is, but obviously there's some brotherly competition always, right?
Well, he is a crazy genetic build too, because he can do all this lean,
Oh,
like leaner
man.
than me. Like, yeah, he's a beast. He's a beast.
You got some crazy genes over at that household,
Yeah,
man.
he's
I'm
a
telling
beast.
you that. Holy smokes.
Yeah.
Man. Okay, man. So walk us through like what's next for you? Obviously I know, but like tell us like what's the goal right now? What are we aiming for?
Yeah, so we got the wedding this summer, obviously. So just doing a little bit of a fat loss phase to clean it up a little bit. I don't know how long we'll do this. Hopefully not that long. Hopefully I'll lock in and then we can be done pretty quick and then go back to the maintenance phase. But the big thing for me was just to keep the same size frame that I had last year, because we got like some clothes and stuff like that. And one of the biggest things for me is like a lot of the clothes that I had when we started this don't fit anymore. So I didn't want to kind of like reverse out and then like put on size and not fit in the clothes that I need for this event. After that, I was going to talk to you about this. I don't think I mentioned it, but I would be interested in doing like a serious building phase and seeing like what we can do. Got to bench 315 so I can earn my shirt. And then, yeah, so that's kind of what's next. Fat loss phase for a little bit. See how lean we can really get, minus the competition. And then maintenance. And then once we're through, I shouldn't say through that event. Once the wedding is done, a real building phase, because we haven't done one of those, and I think it'd be really fun.
I agree, man. I mean, the good thing is when you get yourself to a point of leanness where it's, even if we take 7 off you, like you will be looking pretty sliced up. And then
that's what I was thinking too. Like 7 more, like, because that's not crazy. Like we've done that.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, obviously it gets more difficult the lower you go.
Correct.
But I mean, I don't think that's crazy. But that's what I was thinking too. That's kind of like where I want to be.
And the good thing is when you start at a good point of leanness like you're at right now, like you're already like athletically lean, we'll call it, it's not this long journey. So the goal is hopefully we can just take that last bit off, not spend so much time losing fat. Let's get in, rob the bank and get out kind of situation, and then back to eating more. You'll feel great for your wedding. You'll fit great in the shirts. You'll look great. Everybody will be like, holy crap, you're like a superhero mode. And then after that, then we can push that for that strength.
Yeah.
And like strengthen kind of size, just maybe for some fun benching and stuff like that. Because obviously, having a little more just meat on you in general will really help with the pressing movements for sure. But yeah, just kind of take it in phases and enjoy every single phase, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, conservative build. We don't want to go full blown dirty bulk.
I would never recommend a dirty bulk. Yeah, never ever, man. I did one of those when I was younger. My coach, unfortunately, back then was not the greatest.
You end up hating food in general by the end of that.
I hated food. My pants didn't fit. My face looked like a watermelon. I mean, it was just girls didn't talk to me. It was not great. But anyways, you live and you learn, right? So I wanted you to talk to somebody at to people like at home listening, maybe, you know, have been dabbling in the gym, but haven't really taken it to that next level, and maybe have never really like been as structured with things or been as calculated. What would you say to them to kind of get over that mental hurdle?
Yeah, actually a conversation like this like 2 days ago or something like that. I think the best thing to keep in mind is like building a new habit is difficult, but the only thing worse than doing something is doing nothing. So it's like you don't have to go do your full workout every day if you don't feel like it, but like do half or do 20 minutes on the bike or do something like that. And like it's all about like making those links and building that momentum and like starting to build that personal identity of like, I'm someone who is fit. I'm someone who goes to the gym. So it's like the same thing with the tracking. Like you don't have to be perfect, but like tracking your protein is better than tracking nothing at all. So it's about just doing those little things that like feel manageable to you and then like building momentum and like stepping it up a little bit once a week or, you know, every day or something like that. So yeah, be gentle with yourself, be nice to yourself and just show up for yourself every day and do a little bit more than nothing. So that would be the biggest thing that I would
start
say.
Small, work your way up, build momentum.
Yeah.
All amazing
like the biggest
stuff.
thing is do something manageable so you don't like quit, I guess. Like, you know, where it's like, this is too much. This is too overwhelming. I'm done. And like, there's so many things in life where I start something and it seems like too much, like too big of a goal. But it's like, if you chip away at it a little bit every day, it doesn't feel like much every day. But like when you turn around and look at where you were a year ago, it'll be like amazing. You'll be so impressed with yourself. So that's like the most important thing, in my opinion, for everything in life, not just training.
Yeah. No, absolutely, man. And that's inspirational. The last question I'll ask you is, so obviously you're good at thinking kind of longer term. You're good at kind of, because the reason why I say this, because a lot of people just have these, they think 8 weeks, I'm just going to get in great shape and then that's it. But how do you stay in that mindset where, you know, you think a little bit ahead and you understand different phases, and it's not just like a phase of life, it's like committing to, as you said, that identity shift? Like, how do you get from short-term thinking to long-term thinking? Like, what would kind of the steps be?
Well, I think like the ultimate thing that you need to do is like have that identity shift. So in terms of like getting there, it's like doing those little things that feel manageable and like hyping yourself up about being able to do those things. So, and like, I don't know. I mean, people have their own opinions of manifestation and self-belief and stuff like that. But like literally being like, I am a person who does this. I am fit. And like starting to actually like manifest your own identity into like something like that, or like doing something that makes you feel really good. Like for me, knowing that I believe that I'm the person that trains the hardest in the gym, or that other people may believe that I'm the person that trains the hardest in the gym, is a badge of honor to me. And like it is tied to my worth at this point and like part of my identity. So that's like one of those things. You need to like start to manifest your identity and then find those things that you take pride in and internalize those. And that's how you like will make those long-term changes, in my opinion.
I like that, man. I like that. And even if certain things like, oh, I've trained the hardest in the gym, it doesn't actually necessarily need to be true, because that's besides the point. The point
I highly doubt that it's true that I'm the person that trains the hardest, but it's like literally like my internal narrative. Like it's like I probably am not. Like I'm sure there's some people at this gym that train harder than me and do like these cardio things that it's like I would never, like, no way am I doing that. But yeah, it's just about like pushing yourself over the line. Doesn't really matter if it's true.
Right. It just, that's what like gets you going and gets you there. Because I think a lot of people struggle because they label themselves as different things. Like maybe they tried something in the fitness room, they gave up, so they label themselves as, I can never stick to anything, or, you know, oh, I'm a busy person and I can't do it, or like we've all heard endless things. So until the biggest thing in a fitness journey is not what workout program you have, not what diet. That stuff doesn't matter unless you can start to identify differently. Don't identify with maybe, you know, being the fat kid when you were younger, or being the person that failed at everything they tried, or always gave up, or was, you know, last pick. Like you have to switch your identity. And I think that's the stuff that's the hardest. But once you do that, then you, as you're saying, is like you operate at completely different level. And eventually you're just going to become the person that you keep telling yourself that you are.
100%. For sure. And like, it's one of these things, and fitness is one of the, in my opinion, like best ones to do this stuff with, because I feel like you can physically see the changes that you want to see. Like if you go and you walk for 30 minutes extra per day, you're gonna like notice a difference. Like whether that's like you find it easier over time, or like you see changes in your body, and then that's like motivating. You're like, wow, I'm making like a difference in my life. Like, let's go harder. Let's like lean into that. Let's do more. Yeah. So that's it. It's about building the momentum and starting small and compounding wins.
I like it, man. I like it. Is there any final words that you'd like to tell listeners?
Not really the listeners, but I have to say, like, I'm so grateful for all of it. I guess it's almost 2 years now, and it's like completely changed my life. Not like well beyond even just the fitness stuff, but like the principles that you learn in fitness, you can apply to everything else. Like literally, I mean, I've talked about this so much today. Everyone's gonna like mute me, but it's like the 20 minutes, like do something. You know, like I don't want to do my full workout some days. I don't want to track perfectly some days, but like I'm just going to go and do my cardio, do my first 2 exercises, and then that's it. And that's like, even if you feel like sick or whatever, it's just about like building that habit and sticking with it. So, I mean, I've learned that from you, and I've translated that into so many things in my life. Like I'm trying to learn how to code, which I've tried 5 or 6 times in my life, and I've always failed because it seems too intimidating. But it's like, let's just do 20 minutes a day. Like, let's just do 20 minutes a day, and then you can stop. And it's like, okay, like stick with it. And then I know when it comes to January 8th, 2026, if I do 20 minutes a day, I'll probably not be terrible. So
that's true. That's it, man. The same principles. You spread those same principles like peanut butter all over the rest of your life, and like stuff just starts happening, man. And you use the confidence that you build in your fitness journey to take into the other areas of your life. That's
absolutely. Yeah. And like just the discipline and everything like that. And I mean, that's a lot thanks to you. And like having someone over your shoulder watching you and what you're doing helps. It does. It really does. Like if I were to track my macros and have nobody to be disappointed in me when I mess up, I'm kidding, but also kind of not. Like I know you're not disappointed in me, but I feel like when I do bad, that I'm disappointing you. You know what I mean? Even if I'm not, like that's just how I feel. So it does keep me accountable.
Good. Okay. Whatever works. Whatever works. No, man, honestly, hey, it's a privilege for me to be in your corner and see this. And like, I'm always just super grateful to be able to be with people that take this stuff seriously and like are willing to go through those types of identity shifts and really picking up what we're putting down. You know what I mean? So this is not just the fitness, and that's why I love these conversations. So this was inspirational. I appreciate you coming on as well. And I think we got to have you back in a few months. People are going to be wondering how the fat loss phase went. And we also got to show some photos because you guys, you're not seeing, you can't see. You got to take at least like some good photos. I know you don't like it, but at the end of this fat loss phase,
I don't like it.
You got to take like at least some good photos to have documented.
Okay. I'll make you that deal. I don't really like it though. I know that. I hate it actually.
I know that. But all right, Paul, thanks again, and we'll see you guys next time.
Okay, see ya.